I'm actually going to try to go for a walk and make sure that I get good and stretched out a little. Hurts like a son of a bitch, but needs to be done. Keeps my joints from all seizing up and such. Anyway, we're going to get to the statistics of abuse. I'm not going to apologize for my voice sounding prepubescent because I didn't ask for that. It's just I've been quite vocal lately, and it puts a strain on you. I got so many fucking receipts. Alright, so the statistics against men, the harm against men, the front cover of this is one of those men that you have to fear. You get to see his behaviors, things that he was charged with. Whether or not he's guilty, I don't know. With the cops here, it could go either way. With the number of KKK members here, well, it is possible that since most of the people that are getting in trouble for this are Hispanic folks, that they are racially motivated and possibly even attempting to frame people for murder. But I don't have access to any of that, and that's not what I focus on. I mean, very much it's one of the things I try to focus on, but I'm not going to have access to any of that info. But I also get to see how it's not primarily Hispanic names when it comes to the female side of it so much. I want you to take a look at who it is that's most likely to make a false report and why. 90% of the time, false reporting is done by women. And the reason for this is because we teach women that that is acceptable for them to play on sympathy. The I'm a single mom, the pointed abuse, the you're attacking me, you're attacking me. We have taught every woman to do this, to go, you're attacking me. But no, we're not. If we treat women how they are taught to treat us, they go, oh my God, you're playing victim. Voila! Magnifique! Absolument! And I probably pronounced all those words wrong. The statistics of abuse. They showed the person who is most likely to abuse somebody, and you guys are confused by me. I don't make any fucking sense to you guys. Well, that's because you guys started off with the assumption of neurotypical, normal. Anything that's strange, odd, warped, or different. Anything that you don't understand is not normal and therefore somehow equates to you as wrong. If you don't understand nuclear physics, but you think you do, and you want to argue with a nuclear physicist who's top of his class, there's going to be absolutely no contest there. Why the fuck would you argue with somebody like that? Well, there's a good reason. To learn. What better way than to pick the brains of the best? You feed them a little bit of your ignorance and a little bit of the wives' tales that you've heard, and you try to find out what they come up with. Unfortunately, when you're in a system whereby law enforcement and hospitals have ulterior motives financially, and have financially to gain, and of course strategically to gain from innocent people being rolled over in the hospital, rolled over through the jails and courts, Rolled over means that they take an at-risk adult who cannot defend themselves, and they just continually rearrest them when they have room in the jails, and then drop them back off on the streets. Or, of course, when that person is abused. As you guys know, statistically, we are far more likely to be physically assaulted. Me, I have Tourette syndrome, so I do this with my wrists. It hurts to do that with this wrist a lot more, but I got Tourette syndrome, so I do it anyway. Thank you, Waylon Lolatai, for making that hurt. You are such a gentleman. A lot of people want to hate on me because I curse. If you curse, that's verbal abuse. You're absolutely right. What do I reserve verbal abuse for? For physical abuse, physical harm, threats against people's lives. When those things happen, yes, I will curse. If you're going to hit a child, I will fucking curse about it. You're goddamn right. Especially if I am not heard when I say it the first 100 goddamn times. I post it up en masse as public as I can so that everybody can possibly have access to it. But then I have people who don't have time, but they expect me, without any of the resources they have, creature comforts, or even an outlet to plug into that I can use. Sure, I can use it in my car, but I'm going to run out of gas, aren't I? I'm down to about half a tank already. A little above a half a tank. That's what I charge everything up with. Ugh, gross boogers. Is it gross boogers or really gross boogers? Let's get to Ted Bollinger. Who's most likely to abuse someone sexually? Out of everybody, it's your father. Ted Bollinger was Natalie's actual father. Why she told Sierra Santoya that I was her father, I have no idea. It makes absolutely no sense to me other than maybe I don't get it. I really don't. That doesn't make sense to me. Like her telling me she thought she was in love with me and all that stuff, like, even with me posting up the evidence that is absolutely the truth, you still just don't fucking care. See, that's the thing, is that the reality of the situation is those are the things that I was being told at the time by those people. A lot of people that wanted to make excuses not to help, that were a part of the situation. I was like, there's a lot of evidence. They wanted to tell me, oh, well, Sean, you fucking can't admit Facebook evidence in as evidence. It's not evidence, it's just Facebook. I was like, no, that is not true. All of my predators were able to prey on the Facebook thing. They were also able to prey on the fact that when they bullied me and threatened and harassed me and threatened to kill my friends and family enough, I fucking spoke out loud and proud. And I did reach out to my friends and family for help, but as a male, you don't get that help. That is expressed through all of the situations with people that I've been in. You say, oh, Sean, you're the bad guy. You're the culprit. Look how nice these people are. Look how kind these people are. Look how they offered to help you. Look how you didn't want the help, and so on and so forth. Are you looking at the situations? What I had, what my abilities were or are, how many resources I have to work with, and how much it's going to take? Before I can ever process this abuse, process this evidence, I have to have a safe place for my evidence and a safe place for myself where predators are not allowed to do what they do. Those youngins the other night and the stuff with Candace today and the other day, that's not something that I should have to endure. And those of you who say, oh, you shouldn't record, yes, I should. That is the only protection that I have. When people want to take little bits and pieces of recordings and say, look, see, Sean's a bad guy, and I go, oh, really? Well, let's post up the whole thing. Let's post up all of the evidence. I think that should be okay. I think it should be okay for somebody to show the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in a court of law. When I say, I'll tell what you'll allow me to tell, and I'll show what you'll allow me to show. Well, we already know the courts and law enforcement, as well as the general public and the media, have a generalized hatred for the homeless. We are your go-to for everything now. We get to see from BLM posting up stuff from the media from the 1970s and 60s and 50s saying, this is what America was really like for us black folks. You still owe us. You tell me don't live in the past for something that happened fucking yesterday, and you're going to dig up news articles from the 1950s that show what? This is the funniest goddamn part of the whole thing. You can find those exact same types of newspaper articles about homeless people going all the way back to just after the Civil War. Not that people didn't try that before the Civil War. Strange. Well, now there's incredible incentives. That's what a lot of people don't want to acknowledge. Incredible incentives. For state and local governments to lock you up, they get to charge a lot of taxes. And they also get to bolster their numbers, which is basically them going, oh, look, see, we did a great job. We're going to pat ourselves on the back. Look, American public, this is how many people we locked up. Did you really lock up criminals, or did you lock up people who are on the streets because there's no place else for them? And you have 122 beds for 4,500 homeless people in your county, and you want to say, oh, well, why don't you just go to the homeless shelter? Meanwhile, everybody in that homeless shelter is in a desperate situation, and the more desperate people are, the more likely they are to do desperate things like steal your stuff. Or just fucking snap on you. Or dive into a bottle of friggin' booze and fucking hurt you. And you guys see how afraid I am of alcoholics and meth addicts. You get to see how afraid I was at Brett Roloff's and how I had to try to hold my call. When I made that video about, it's called, I Came Here to Get Help, Not to See My Friend OD. That video, that's got Brett Roloff in it, overdosing and digging through his own fecal matter for a bag of drugs. With Shannon Alvarado, her drinking issues were pretty major too, and the statistics show that in male-committed suicides and homicides, very often, especially in the homicides, alcohol is, well, both alcohol is a contributing factor. See, before a person offs themselves, man or woman, the reason that it's so high of a statistic for them having those things in their system, it's not just the addicts, it's also people who don't do those things, who decided that they wanted to make sure it didn't hurt. They wanted to try to calm their nerves and steady their nerves to do it. I hate having hairs that tickle my boogers. See, big, huge nostrils, but up at the top it's very tiny and it's difficult for me to breathe. It's been like that forever. One of my vocal tics from having Tourette syndrome is that. Now, I get you. You commonly associate it, but I've been doing that since I was... Shit, I don't know. I don't remember not doing it. It wasn't one of my first vocal tics. It's just when you have a tick, there's a certain part of your body that it feels like it's. All right, if you guys have ever had a lactic acid situation, how it feels weird, then you know what it's like a little bit to have ticks when you have Tourette syndrome. There is no such thing as a comfortable position when you got back problems. And, Alright, let's get back to this situation with Natalie. Women in situations where they are taught to retaliate and how to retaliate are taught to do it differently than men. They're taught you're not as strong as a man, so you have to manipulate. Here's how to manipulate. Us girls got to stick together. Now, one thing that I do have to point out, when we say boys are stronger than girls, no, that's not true. That is absolutely not true. Our peak performance level as a species does show a 35% more for the strongest of the strong men and the strongest of the strong women. There's about 35% more that men are capable of doing and are showing statistically. So this is not a myth as far as that goes, but the myth that all men are 35% stronger than women is bullshit. To say that I could outbench Ronda Rousey would be bullshit. To believe that because I have a penis that my back injuries that prevent me from having that kind of strength don't exist is bullshit. To pretend that because I have a penis that I must have a chiseled body like somebody who trains every day and eats all of the best proteins in mass quantities and snacks with the best foods, expensive foods specifically meant to performance enhance your body without steroids. Yeah, I'm not that guy. I'm not 6'4", I'm 5'9" on a good day. Statistically, I am not a statistic. Statistically, I'm not a neurotypical. Y'all neurotypicals judging me, or normal people. None of you are normal, first of all. Let's get that very clear. Not a single one of you are normal. You just think you are. Shannon Alvarado having a Chucky doll collection in your fucking house and a Nazi fucking uniform in your closet is not fucking normal. Showing that to a Jew is fucked up. Sorry, a person of Hebrew descent. It's rude to say that I am Jewish because I do not follow the religion. My ancestors come over to this country all conforming to Christianity and trying to fit in with American Christianity because it was what was popular. Kind of like a lot of Native Americans converted to Christianity because, well, you get the hope that if you're conforming to their gods and their religions, maybe they'll at least treat you better than slaughtering you wholesale and taking everything from you. Maybe they'll share you a little bit of the bone after they're done eating the steak, instead of taking you out back and shooting you like a lame dog. It's not just Native Americans. It's not just black folks. The United States statistically is shitty to poor people. The American people are statistically shitty to poor people. We have to make a big, happy, fun day parade where we spend $200 on a sign and $100,000 to make commercials to invite people to an event. You're making this event for people to come and do something for the homeless, right? You're spending all of this money, American taxpayer dollars, on what? Propaganda. Oh, we're having a happy fun day parade. We're going to expend all of this money to help the homeless to improve the public image of police departments, right? Or they go, or for example, the pizza feed in Boulder, Colorado. As much as that costs the American taxpayers for the good that it does, it's supposed to be where police and homeless can interact and try to get to see each other as human beings. And it's also supposed to bring awareness to the public and try to, is that what it's actually for? No, the officers all stand around like this, pissed off that they're there. One or two of them will kind of mingle a little bit with a couple of the homeless people that they know, and one or two of them will walk through the crowd and look for people with warrants. And then they got a couple officers who stand off to the side in their vehicles, and if there's somebody that one of these officers recognizes with a warrant at this is what it is. It's a sting for homeless people who have trespassing warrants for sleeping on city property after 10 o'clock. Or for people who have camping tickets that are outstanding. Or for failure to appears because they were in jail somewhere else. Or because you took them to a mental institution and then held court without them and held them in contempt of court. What was the other one that's real common? Not just contempt of court. Oh yeah, FTA, failure to appear. You send them to a hospital in another county, sure. It's Boulder County Police Department, or Boulder Police Department, or Boulder County Sheriff's Department gets to send you to Clearview Behavioral Health and Larimer County. Oh, that could have turned into a very, very bad thing. They held me more days than they should have. The cameras that were in there showed crimes that they committed against me. A lot of crimes that they committed against me. There's also a lot more crimes that they would have gotten busted for if there was mandatory audio recording in those places for our safety. Like a black box on a fucking airplane. It needs to be done. If somebody decides that they're gonna rape a few of the people in there and then they realize there's a black box and decide they're gonna go kill the inmates and light the place on fire, or if somebody just decides that they had a bad day and hate one of the doctors that works there and lights the place on fire, that black box is always there recording what happened in a place where vulnerable adults are sent. Anywhere that vulnerable adults are sent needs to have audio and visual recording at all times. The rules are not for the patient's safety in that situation. And the statistics of how easy people are to victimize in that situation show that. Their own statistics show that. At-risk adults, the elderly, the homeless, the mentally ill, and the physically disabled. And you say, oh, you can only do one, either the physical or the mental disabled. No, I have both, and both of them affect it. And they get to prey on both of them. They have also preyed on my gender, and on bias and prejudice. No. Just because you want to pretend, while you neurotypicals seem to be always obsessed with sex and then pretending everybody else is a sex maniac, sex addicted freak. And you assign that to the weirdest people. The ones who dress the most colorful. The outlandishly gay must be that way in many of your minds. People who are not pretty looking, people with pockmarked faces and glasses, and men with beards that don't quite grow in the right places. You guys see people with little character flaws and, well, you take them off of your dating list, which is fine. But then you want to shame other people that you believe they should be on your dating list. You believe that other people should owe you chances where you're not going to give them chances. That other people owe it to you to help you, but you don't owe it to anyone. Oh, I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you anything. It's not just men and women who do this. It's gender-neutral people, too. People are people. You do have to fear what other people think, because people do horrible things over what they think. People will literally kill you if somebody tells them that, oh, well, he's planning on raping your child, or he's going to kill your child. Yeah, there are people who will literally go out there and kill that person just based on that slander. Oh, I'm just afraid that he might do those things. He might do those things. Now, where did I have a history of threatening people before Natalie was killed? Afterwards, two events. Two very, very serious events resulted in me doing it back in order to force a court date because no one took it seriously. And statistically, people don't take it seriously when a man needs help, when a man's being abused. We have taught women that they can call a man any fucking manner of names. Now, here's the thing that I want you guys to look at the most. The people who harmed me the most were Natalie Bollinger and Maddie Boa. Those two in specific. Natalie Bollinger knew I didn't stalk her and that she was only pretending that to make her family happy. All right, I get that. I can understand that. And Natalie knew I understood that. But the thing is, it didn't have to go any further than that. She showed what statistically women do when they're angry, embarrassed. What they are taught to do, which is to destroy a man's life through slander. You use one of the 3 lies to destroy his life. He's a physical abuser. He's a sexual abuser. He's an emotional abuser. Now, what type of abuse are men most likely to give? Is it physical abuse? No. We are a lot more likely to emotionally abuse you than physically. Because when we are emotionally abused, we're more likely to shut down because you're not going to let us express our emotions. Only you are allowed to. And we show that through most of our conversations. Men are expected socially to listen to a woman talk about her emotions and how she feels and every little detail of her day. For a man, he's been trudging in shit all day, digging out a fucking sewer, much of it by hand, having to unclog a lot of poo. These are the jobs that men are, on average, more likely to have by a lot than women. Like, what's the percentage of women in construction? How many job sites do you walk onto with a woman who is not a receptionist or hired through Labor Ready? And we are trying to get more women involved in construction because a woman in construction can be a very good thing. Now, if we're not allowed to make adult jokes on the job site, that's fine. I've been on plenty of job sites that were absolutely professional, and you were not to wink at another male employee or a female employee because it's rude. Now, we've got this thing trained where, all right, if a woman feels like she is being sexually harassed because a man winked at her, well, let's say we have a trans person in our office who winks at us. we get the argument of, oh, well, if it was a man, you would say it's okay. No, the fuck I wouldn't. But I'll for goddamn sure say it's equal if you're going to do it too. I know so many women who have played victim because they didn't get what they wanted and gotten so many people involved that it destroyed a man's life and he committed suicide. And that is a common story every day. Every day men do this in the United States. Every day men do this in Australia. That's fucking scary as shit. Just saying. Statistically, when you call a woman a pedophile or insinuate that she's a pedophile, people aren't likely to care. And even if they do, she's likely to get a slap on the wrist. We've had 2 women this year already that were convicted of having sex with boys who are 14 years of age or younger who got 0 time. They were sentenced to 0 time. We've also got another woman recently who was sexually abusing a 10-year-old boy and had done so for 3 years. She was a teacher as well. Even here in Tillamook, it's not untouched by women in power, positions of power like teachers and nurses, getting busted for sexually abusing children. Sexually abusing boys. And when you want to make the argument, oh, it's different, the fuck it is. You want to say it's not traumatic? Here's what's traumatic. Not only are you dealing with that, you're dealing with the fact that she's going to get out a lot fucking sooner. And the chances of her being able to wait until you're an adult and then go slander you to people or give them stuff to go hurt you or harm you because you told. Or, which is often the case, the 10-year-old goes to a trusted adult and says, hey, this is what happened to me. And that trusted adult believes them and knows that you're supposed to turn it in right away. What kind of a friend or family member would not do that for a child? What kind of a sick person do you have to be to turn down somebody who needs help turning that in? I'm not that sicko. When you tell me about it, I try to turn it in, but you know what? I need help doing so safely so that I'm not antagonized and criticized and bullshit. Given the whole, well, are you sure you didn't ask for it just a little bit? Statistically, yes, women are more likely to be raped, but not by as large of a margin as you might believe. We just tend to go, all right, well, we can't trust a man, and we have to trust women because women have been so undercut all these years. No, we are falling behind. Men are falling behind because all of these programs and services that were created to help women, we are having more and more women being dependent upon them and doing nothing with what they're getting out of it. We are paying women for 20 to 40 years. That's right. There are women who have been in college for 40 years because they've been able to stay fertile for that long, to have a child that was still not an adult. Yes, there are women who can have children when they're in their 40s. And they can continue to go to school as long as they are able to get the paperwork in. They can get a stipend and money to pay for their children. And you say, oh, well, she's doing work. Look what good she's doing for society. Look what good she's doing. Well, she can't help anyone else because she's too busy. All right, what's she too busy with? A free education, free child care, a free stipend for the bills. It is free. It is a lot easier to access in some places than others, and it is always easier to access for somebody who is a female. Given equal circumstances, women are always more likely to be the ones chosen. There are 15 services in Boulder, Colorado that are female only for every co-ed service, and there are no absolutely men's only services. There are halfway houses that are just for men, and there are halfway houses that are just for women. So when you say there's a man's only shelter in Boulder, you are on fucking drugs. It's not a man's only shelter. It's a halfway house for people who just got out of fucking prison. The reason for that is because that felon, part of their probation is going to be that they maintain a roof over their head so that they can be tracked and maintained at any point in time as a part of their parole agreement and their probation that's going to go along with it later on. There's a lot of stuff that you guys don't get and understand. Rihanna Ingersoll, when she wanted to play victim, and then she realized that my vehicle had been taken, that the police had tried to get rid of evidence and steal evidence and make sure that evidence that they had been told and explained was evidence against child abusers. They didn't care. They only cared about arresting me. Even though they claimed they weren't. I knew what this fucking tune was. You know, and I made the first 3 calls from other people's phones. Try to make it anonymous and do it right. Anonymously. Didn't work. Nobody showed up when I called. See, that's the thing, is that the first 3 times that I called, the police did not show up. They showed up when other people called. And you can tell who it is that had somebody else call. It was the girls. Smart girls, but the thing is, you should have admitted what she actually did instead of pretending she wasn't feeding you. That's the only place where you young ladies messed up. To Amy Kalina Kingery's 2 daughters. Other than that, you did right. You did right. And I understand you were afraid to tell the cops that she hit you, because that is a much bigger deal. It's the way that you think about it. But the thing is, I made 3 phone calls of my own. Anonymously. And then 3 phone calls where I had to record it and post it on YouTube to show that I had done so. Doing it privately and alone wasn't working. Doing it anonymously wasn't working. So, I mean, I made a grand total of 6 phone calls overall, plus that meeting when the cops finally showed up. What did I literally have to do? What did I literally have to do to get the cops to actually almost pretend like they would do something? Well, Rihanna Ingersoll said that she'd pay for the coffee. I was fine with that. But then on the way out the door, we, of course, did have an issue there. Because why? Because she still wasn't thinking about the girls, and she still was not willing to stop hitting them. She was not willing to tell me that she was going to stop hitting them. So what I do, I threw the fucking coffee down on the ground. And Had $7 in my pocket. Threw that down. There you go. There's for the fucking coffee and the cleanup. And I left. I went out. There was 4 garbage cans. There was a garbage bag in each one. I pulled out the garbage bag and set it next to the garbage can. You know what? I should probably dump it, but I don't want to litter. Yeah. That right there. That's what I got arrested for. Even though they said they're just going to issue me a citation. Turned out that was a damn lie. On the bright side, I did try to turn them in right then and there. I did try to turn it in right then and there, as I always do. And when I can record it, it shows that I did so. It also shows in their own paperwork that they literally went out of their way to neglect all of that and to try to twist things into something that they weren't. Which, if someone had been there with me, if Rihanna had been the friend that she was going to be, she'd have been there to help me turn in my predators instead of being one and making me go alone. I did record afterwards, though. Rand Ingersoll admitted that she did it because she was angry. And she was sorry. I'm sorry, Sean, I was mad. I know. But you've been taught more so than we that it's okay to lie in that situation. We're told we need to man up. You're taught to blame the man. It's fucked up. It destroys lives. You played on predatory instincts. Are those instincts? No, they are learned traits. We talk about the statistics of abuse in women, how women are far more likely to abuse children by a lot. Far more likely to physically abuse their children than men. Wait, I'm not allowed to say that, am I? Alright, I'm trying to smile and be happy and all that. It's not working so good. Statistically, most of our social type money goes specifically to women. I don't mean specifically women with children. I don't mean specifically single parents. I mean specifically to women. Primarily women. Women are more likely to get disability on a mental issue than a male is for a life-threatening physical issue. Did you know that? Statistics. Now you guys want to focus on the arrest records. That only shows bias. Like BLM keeps complaining about. Those arrest records, they do show bias. But one thing that even BLM wants to ignore, even with MMIW, saying, hey, these records show bias. One thing that they don't want to admit either is that the homeless have it worse than all of them. Homeless people are the most likely people to be raped in this country. They're the most likely people to be beaten up in this country. They're the most likely people to be beaten to death in this country. They're the most likely targets of serial killers. They're the most likely targets of physical abuse and financial abuse. They're the most likely to be homeless because of those forms of abuse. They are more likely to have PTSD. That's the mental illness that nearly every homeless person gets from being homeless. Oh God, I didn't know it was going to be this way. Yeah. Welcome to your first night homeless, Chuckles. You're going to be laughing yourself to sleep by the end of the week. You're going to realize those homeless people that you're so fucking afraid of were people once, and they have the mistaken belief that they're still people just like you do. But your fear of those homeless that you find is not what you were taught it was, is replaced by another Another fear, a far worse and darker fear. The very real fear of how you're actually treated once you get there. Even with all of the women's services out there, the majority of those women's services are going to go to people who have the resources to get to them. If you have to go to a food bank in Longmont to fulfill court orders, and the food bank in Longmont is going to require you to go to 4 church meetings in a month so that you can get that one day a month that you're getting their food bank stuff. Now you've taken up 5 days of your month because you've been court ordered to go there to get food from the food bank there. Does Boulder ever do shit like that? Yes. So does Denver. You have special officers that work for the probation. And pre-trial as well. And yes, they can force you to jump through all of those hoops as a homeless person. Plus, they can force you to go take UAs, whether you have a history of drug use or abuse or not. If they take you to the hospital as a homeless person, the police have the automatic same response every time. He's schizophrenic and he's on drugs. Later. Motherfuckers. And how many homeless people did I know who ended up getting homeless and permanently fucked mentally because as a homeless person, that's commonplace. Now let's talk about the effects of Haldol and the percentages of fucked up people that it creates. You've got an 8% chance of becoming permanently schizophrenic or delusional from taking Haldol, from an injection of Haldol. It's 8%. 30% of people that happens to have residual effects for weeks afterwards. And in over 70% of people, it forces that individual to exhibit traits nearly immediately that one could try to pretend are schizophrenic. Well, it basically can make you permanently schizophrenic, so why wouldn't it give you that at least temporarily? I've seen some strong-minded people that ended up homeless because of abuse from a girlfriend or a wife. Ended up out on the streets, had a job, thought they were going to get themselves unhomeless, but lo and behold, they weren't homeless long enough to realize that, hey, when the cops come and fuck you in the morning, they're not fucking around. You do as they fucking say. You don't have any goddamn rights. This ain't like you're at your fucking house. You're able to record it. This is, you just fucking woke up, there's a bright light in your fucking face, and you're like, dude, what? What the fuck, dude? And now you gotta do community service, jump through a bunch of fucking hoops, serve a few days in jail, take a day off for court. All that costs time, all that costs money. If you're disabled, it's worse. You've got a fixed income, but it's not enough to live on for a month. It's not enough to get you unhomeless. And without a friend or family member to help when you are taken advantage of, like, yeah, I knew when I was getting taken advantage of. But like many people, they're in a desperate situation. My friends and family didn't give two shits. They expressed that and showed it. They showed statistically how men are treated, and they all showed it towards me. How statistically people are more likely to just give men excuses or blow them off when they're abused. And that as a result of that, men have to be more afraid to turn in their predators. More afraid of ostracization, because while a woman primarily only has to deal with ostracization, a man more commonly has to do with physical assaults, physical threats, physical intimidation in person. A man is more likely to be the victim of physical assaults by a lot. A woman is 90% of the time the person who has made a false report. This is shown by their own records. How amazing is that we will just forgive a female child molester? 8 months? That's a fucking joke. 2 months? That's a fucking crime. Two months for 3 years worth of sexual assaults against a 10-year-old boy by a female teacher. Giving her only 2 years, of which she'll serve probably between 8 and 16 months. And she didn't get 2 years, did she? She got 2 months. Gross. Fucking gross. You assign to me your sexual preferences, sexual wants, sexual desires. You assign to me the wants, needs, and desires of people like Joseph Michael Lopez and Tim Beeson and Ted Bollinger. You assign me the needs of others. You also get to see how, yes, the statistics of how difficult it is for a man to be heard, how people will make the excuse of, oh, they're not going to listen to you, you're a guy, as an excuse not to come forward. People are more likely to kill a man over a lie told by a woman than they are to help a man out here turn in a crime that there is absolutely a shit ton of evidence of. You're more likely to kill us over rumors, assault us over rumors, threaten our lives over rumors, and threaten to kill our friends and family. You are more likely than a schizophrenic person to assault somebody. Between a schizophrenic person and somebody who is neurotypical, a normal person, the normal person is more likely to harm the schizophrenic person. More likely to physically assault them because they know they'll get away with it. More likely to sexually assault them because they know they can get away with it. Oh, he's schizophrenic, he's mentally ill. But then you also try to play that for everyone that you can call mentally ill. You try to infer that they're all schizophrenic. Oh, it's not okay to victimize them because they're schizophrenic, is what you're saying when you say mentally ill. But then, when they harm you, it's a different story, isn't it? Oh my God! When Robert Farnsworth harms me, you treat me differently than if he harms you or assaults you, don't you? You treat Waylon Lolatai differently if he assaults me versus if he assaults somebody else, don't you? Is it not just as wrong? Oh wait, I'm not a vulnerable adult. I can't possibly be a vulnerable adult. I can't possibly have disabilities because the color of my skin and my penis magically prevent it. Really? That doesn't make any sense. We need to pay closer attention to statistics, but you guys are judging me based on statistics of neurotypicals. And I am not neurotypical. I am anything but neurotypical. Or when that doesn't suit you, then you try to pretend that autism is schizophrenia. Try to discredit me. When your peoples harm me and you want to say, oh, they're mentally ill, as if I should let them get away with actually physically assaulting me and actually threatening my life because you said that, or because you say, oh, well, you got to feel bad for those people, they're on drugs. Shove it up your ass. Statistically, that's how women are going to help a man. Statistically, that's how a Christian is going to help a man. And statistically, the help that a man needs in that situation, they will automatically jump to and provide that for a woman or a child. When a man is being abused, what help does he have? He's demasculated if he speaks up about it. Oh my God, dude, it's a fucking girl. You can't handle a girl, and so on and so forth. You don't stop to consider that it's not just a girl. All right, it's people harming you, actually harming you, because she wanted to go slandering your name, and they go, oh, well, you know what? Who cares what she has to say? Well, people who are threatening to kill me and my friends and family and fucking assaulting me, creating multiple accounts to threaten to kill me and my friends and family, to make fun of me, to do all sorts of really fucked up shit. And then there's people in real life doing those things too. Just for those of you who want to go, oh, well, just get off the internet. You mean don't speak up about the abuse? You're going to tell me I deserve to take the abuse because I spoke up? Or that I need to shut up because it supposedly happens more often to women? No, this does not happen to women. This does not happen to women. The bias against men in this country is against men. The only people that the police can shoot and kill 90%, over 90%, 96% of those killed by police are men. They're the only people that you can victimize at that quantity and get away with it and no one cares. No matter what. You are all trained to blame the victims if they're male. You're taught that it's okay to body shame a male. That he's a horrible person if he does it back. That he started it if he does it back. You get to see how when I reached out for help about the abuse by Natalie Bollinger, I was very humane and very kind about the way that I approached it, who I approached, and why. Because I paid attention to McGruff in school. I also paid attention to the mandated reporter stuff. But the other thing is, in all the different places that I was in, I had to learn the rules over because every state's different. Only a little bit. When it comes to an at-risk and disabled adult who is being abused, whether or not you harm the victim by calling them mentally ill, or help the victim by calling them disabled, as whether or not that disabled person has a friend or family member there. Otherwise, you get to use the term mentally ill to vilify people who do not deserve the moniker, tag, or label of schizophrenic or delusional. You use mentally ill as an excuse for my predators to get away, the same way that you use their alcohol addiction and their drug addiction as an excuse why I should let them get away. And then you want to pretend that I'm an alcoholic or a drug addict as an excuse to harm me. You want to say, oh, we need to harm Sean. We need to harass him en masse. We need to try to destroy his evidence because he's just an evil, rapey man like all of the rest. Really? You want to pretend that I'm Ted Bollinger? And of course, not every neurotypical male is a rapist, are they? I mean, look at Brandon Ratner. He's not a rapist, no, but he's still a tail chaser. For him, the instinct and drive to reproduce is very much there, and anytime that he has a chance to get laid, I'm supposed to understand. Hey, dude, you gotta understand, it's not very often I get laid. Yeah, and you're gonna not get laid tonight either, I guarantee it. You're gonna tell me tomorrow, oh, dude, fucking, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, you know, fucking, I should have just done it last night. I was just being a dumbass, dude, fucking, I should have known she would just lead me on. Like, fuck, dude, now I'm hearing your whole goddamn life story. At least I know why you stood me up. In many of these cases, they turn off their phone and get a hold of me later and say, hey, dude, I'm sorry, I thought I was going to get laid and I didn't want to get any interruptions, you know? You're supposed to understand. Or, yeah, Sean, I know I was going to call the police with you and admit to the shit that happened and the people that fucking did this shit and the fact that I did see it, I did hear it, I have seen the evidence, but I'm sorry, Sean, I really had to get fucking late. I really thought I was going to get some, dude. Holy shit. And women doing the same thing to me, all right? Before you start saying men are pigs, women do the same thing to me. There are plenty of women who are typing about how they need to get their guts smashed. Yeah. There's a lot of women on my channel that while you try to pretend that men are more violent and you want to push the fact that sometimes men talk about killing people, but look at how much more the women in these situations have done so. Other than a schizophrenic feller down there, we have gotten to hear a lot of women talk about how they would kill them or should kill them or somebody else should kill them primarily. But that guy who's definitely schizophrenic and delusional, who thinks all this other crazy stuff and wants to go kill his mom and kill some other guy in Canada who's supposedly a million billion trillionaire who's it's just it's crazy thinking. Now, although statistically people who are called mentally ill are less likely to be the aggressors, they are the most likely, other than the homeless. See, there are more hate crimes against the homeless than all other hate crimes combined in the United States. And it only increases exponentially for disabilities like being a male because of the bias, being physically disabled, or having mental trauma like PTSD. All of those, when you're a male, can be used as excuses by people to pretend that you're a dominant, violent male. Now, we go through the same cycles as women, just so you know. Men and women go through exactly the same cycles when it comes to our emotions of abuse. What we base many things off of is what men are allowed to show. Where a woman will be able to get help right away in certain areas, men will have to beg. We'll have to try to come up with a strategic way to try to get heard, or have a woman that loves them, like their mother, who's going to listen if their mother cares, if their mother's not a drug addict. A lot of y'all are attracted to women who are like your mothers, drug addicted and twisted, or good, wholesome, and good-hearted and good-natured. By saying that, I'm not trying to imply traditional. Good-hearted and wholesome doesn't mean traditional. Wholesome is an old-fashioned way of saying, for real, son. Now, is that derogatory because I said son? No, that's me pointing out that very much, very, very much, we make this a man's fault. Teach your boys not to. Teach your boys not to do this. Teach your boys not to do that. When somebody is bullied, when somebody has been sexually assaulted, what you need to tell her, what you need to do to help her. You very much point it very specifically as if there are no male victims. And statistically, nearly every one of these co-ed sites that are supposed to help us, they're self-help guides and tables, specifically address the victim as a she in most of them, and address the predator as a he in most of them. Meanwhile, the only reason that women are more likely to beat on their children than men, however, arrest records show that men are more likely to be arrested and convicted than women of domestic assault, is because men are less likely to be heard than children. And we've even gotten to see where children who are being abused and trying to tell on their abuser, how exactly what I told you happens. You try to tell on your abuser when your stepdad or your dad does something wrong. The police show up. They give you a choice between going back with your predator or going to the lockup. Whether that be a jail or a juvenile hall or a mental hospital, depending on whether or not they can threaten, harass, and intimidate you into being suicidal right there by harming you and scaring you that badly. Even with that 14-year-old girl's friend speaking up and explaining that they were trying to tell on her stepdad, that she had been trying to tell on her stepdad. The people from Tillamook Family Counseling Center here, what did they do? Statistically, what I told you that they would. For an at-risk or vulnerable adult, it's even worse because nobody cares about the adult, but you get to see that in that situation, even though it was an actual little girl, a 14-year-old girl trying to tell on a male who is most likely the predator in that situation. Why? Because statistically, 80% of the time, it's one parent or the other. When they say that, statistically, the stepdad is included in that. When they say that the person who abused them is most likely related, they count that because a stepdad is related by marriage. Yep. Pedophiles definitely choose women who are desperate and lonely and have children that have mental illnesses. Just like a lot of sexual predators choose to become teachers, primarily female sexual predators choose to become teachers. Primarily female serial killers choose to become nurses. They also happen to have the highest rate of sexual assault. Female teachers do. Not against them, but against male students. Women are more likely to do this. And it's not just with male students, it's also female students. It's a lot more difficult to be able to tell that with a female student because we want to pretend that a female student who would say that is either delusional because no teacher would ever try to force themselves into a lesbian situation because this is not a thing in the United States. Really, it's not? Are you sure? In many of those situations, it's that the target of that is either you want to pretend that they're a lesbian and that makes it okay, or you believe that your target will allow it because your target has expressed to you that she's a lesbian. She's expressing that to you because you're a trusted adult. You have now groomed a child. As a female teacher, whether you do it to a boy or a girl, you're advancing horrible, horrible things upon that child and the rest of that child's life. But because you're a woman, you're going to get away with it. Now with a boy, well, he basically has to get you pregnant in order for that to be taken seriously. When you've got girls that are the product of rape, does it matter who the rapist was? Well, if a woman raped a man, how is that magically okay? And why do we have so many feminist groups who want to pretend that a man can't be raped? Want to pretend like if a man can get it up that it means he wants it. Really, that's like saying that because you're juicy, you want it. No, that is not true. Those things are not true. When a man wakes up in the morning and you have not asked him permission to touch his whatever, keep in mind that you can do potential lifelong damage by not letting him go to the bathroom and urinate before mounting up. You don't care, though. You hear me speaking for all of you the way that you speak for me. The way you pretend things for me. The way you sell your own narratives over me. That's equality. When you tell me I'm a hypocrite, I know I'm being a hypocrite. I am well fucking aware that I'm being a hypocrite. There's a reason that I'm being a hypocrite. It doesn't fucking feel good, does it? That's right, it doesn't. Those of you who want to use your own PTSD as an excuse, that's fine. But then you want to tell me it's no excuse for me. For me, it's mentally ill. For you, it's PTSD. For you, it's attacking you. For me, it's giving advice. For me, it's I owe it to you to let you tell your feelings and express your feelings. How about no? How about no? How about you show me some respect and some equality instead of demanding it from me and giving me none? Lying to me is not respect. Talking over me is not respect. Repeatedly talking over me and making the same suggestion over and over again is not respect. Talking about yourself is not respect. What would you do if a woman came to you and said, I am being gang stalked. I have evidence. Here is evidence you can see. Just to get started, please help me speak up. It is a major situation. Would you help that woman to turn it in right away? Or would it be, well, how about we do it next Thursday? People are more likely to let a man drown. And a disabled man who doesn't have visual markers is just a weirdo in your mind. All he can possibly think about is raping and hurting people in your mind. You assign this to schizophrenic people, and then you assign it to the rest of us who are called mentally ill, as if we are violent schizophrenics. You said it, it must be true. Right?